Legacy Auto has been using a little trick in order to scam the system in Europe that was set up to prevent polluters from polluting more. But now that loophole is being closed. And what does this mean? Huge fines if they don't produce more electric cars. Yeah, Legacy Auto, they're in big trouble. Hello my friends and welcome to the Electric Viking. My name is Sam Evans. Great to have you here on the channel, you new subscribers. Welcome back to everyone else. By the way, we've made 1,000 videos over the last 6 months, so make sure you check out some of those. I'm pretty sure that no one's watched every single one of them. Although some of you say you have, you tell me in your emails. Speaking of you sending me emails, I appreciate all the emails you send. I'm sorry I can't reply to all of them, but I've had a few requests lately that I undo buttons on my shirt a bit further down. And I'm just wondering if I was to do that, would that be something that you would personally agree with? Let me know in the comment section below if that's something you support or if that's something you don't support. We can have a little referendum here and decide the outcome. Now, in all seriousness, legacy automakers, yeah, they are in big trouble. When you actually hear what I'm about to share with you, you're going to go, that's what they've been doing. That's why they are screwed. That's why Tesla and potentially other automakers who, well, actually, I don't know who else, but that's why Tesla's going to get a whole bunch of money from Legacy Auto in terms of payments for their zero credit emissions. So what am I talking about? Well, the EU has said it will now use real world data for plug-in hybrid fuel consumption claims. What's going on right now is all these car companies who make plug-in hybrids are saying that these vehicles are using like 1.5 litres per 100 kilometres. And that's not true in the real world. It's not at all true in the real world, in fact. It is for a very, very tiny minority of people who buy the cars, but for the mass market, it's very unusual to be able to achieve these results. And the EU is saying, yep, this is not legit. We need to close this loophole up, and we will do that. So European regulators are reportedly looking to crack down on plug-in hybrid vehicles with hard-to-match fuel use claims. What does this essentially mean? It all comes down to one thing. It means that the CO2 emissions of these companies, which right now are being reduced because they're claiming false figures or impossible to achieve figures, are going to be put back up. What's that going to mean? That's going to mean they're going to have two choices. They either produce more electric cars, which is, as we all know, impossible to do overnight. Or the other choice is that they pay fines in order to appease the regulators. They either pay Tesla for their zero emissions credits or they pay the fines to the EU. Obviously, they're going to pay Tesla because that's cheaper. You might be thinking, well, what about Volkswagen? Well, the reality is only 5% of all of Volkswagen's vehicles are electric. So, of course, they're going to sell as many electric cars in Europe as they can. So in countries like Australia and America, we're probably not going to see a lot of electric cars coming from a company like Volkswagen. Basically, any automaker which is based in Europe and sells in Europe is going to be sending, or actually any automaker, is going to be sending their electric cars to Europe as much as possible in order to avoid these fines. A Car Expert, a website here in Australia, says that the promotion and adoption of electric cars in Europe will speed up yet further if the proposed fuel consumption calculation changes for plug-in hybrids come into effect. It's not a question of if, it's a question of when. Two sources have told Reuters the European Union is planning to change how fuel consumption and thereby CO2 emissions from plug-in hybrid vehicles are evaluated. Real-world data about how PHEVs are running in hybrid, pure electric, and solely internal combustion engine modes are said to be incorporated into the new measurement standard. This information will likely be gleaned from fuel consumption meters, which have been fitted as standard to all new cars sold in the EU since 2021. There'll be no way of hiding it. There's a fuel consumption meter on the car. It's going to actually tell the EU how much pollution these cars are putting out. And it's going to show a lot different figure to what these manufacturers are currently reporting. Should the updated WLTP standard be approved for use, it will come into play in probably 2025. What does that mean? These automakers have, 2.5 years? Just over 2.5 years to get their shit together. Do you think that's likely? I mean, really? I think that they're going to increase the number of electric cars they sell, but can they increase it enough? Well, as you can see, there's only two outcomes. Pay money or start producing more electric cars. So it's actually a good result. The changes will result, of course, in dramatic increases in the fuel consumption ratings for plug-in hybrid models. This will force automakers to rebalance their electrified vehicle offerings away from plug-in hybrids towards pure EVs. Interestingly, this is happening naturally in the market. In almost every country in the world that buys hybrids or plug-in hybrids and fully electric vehicles, the percentage of plug-in hybrids is going down constantly every month, and the percentage of those that are electric, fully electric, is increasing every month. It might not even be necessary for this to actually be implemented in Europe in 2025. It's going to be interesting to see, but it will certainly scare these legacy auto companies into getting their act together quicker. Automakers are faced with heavy fines if they fail to meet the EU's strict 95 grams per kilometre CO2 average for new car sales, and plug-in hybrids with outrageously low claimed fuel use figures are one tool they're using to sneak below that bar to avoid paying fines. The mooted changes to the WLTP methodology come after criticism that plug-in hybrid cars aren't as green as they claim to be. And that is one of the key reasons why I haven't published any videos on this channel at all about plug-in cars. Not one. I've had hundreds of requests. I've had hundreds of people sending me links and messages and can you make a video about this plug-in hybrid? And I've said no, because I'm sorry, they're not as green as you think they are. They're a stopgap measure. They're not the solution. I'm not looking at vehicles that are providing basically just polluting. I think that that's what they do, and they're not a good solution. Fully electric cars are a much better option. The Newswire cites a study by the International Council for Clean Transportation, or the ICCT, which shows the electric range for plug-in hybrids is generally overstated, in some cases enormously, and plug-in hybrids are charged less often than expected. Why does this happen? The charging issue is apparently more obvious with company cars, which are very, very common in Europe, as drivers don't have any incentive to charge at home to ensure the car operates in its most efficient electric-only or electrically boosted modes. I mean, it does make sense. If you've got a company car, why would you charge it at home when that's going to cost you money rather than the company? So I think there could be a solution to this. Obviously, charging it at home, and then the company pays for whatever charging you do at home. Or maybe they give you some kind of incentive to do it at home. There could be a way to actually measure this on the car as well. Data from Farley, a public fuel economy logging site, shows the 2018 Mitsubishi Outlander plug-in hybrid averaging out to a fuel economy rate of 6 litres per 100. That's 3 times more than what Mitsubishi claim, and that's across 72 vehicles over the past 3 years. Owners on the site run the gamut from those who charge regularly at home to one person who simply runs their vehicle as a regular vehicle and doesn't charge it at all. Outlanders charge regularly overnight, use around about 2 litres per 100 kilometres. Those are the ones, of course, that are only driven a short distance. If they drive a longer distance, then obviously they start to use a lot more fuel because then they're not using the battery. Used as a regular hybrid, the vehicle uses 7.6 litres per 100, which is nearly 4 times the manufacturer's claim. You can see the issues here, right? The Outlander plug-in hybrid's official WLTP rating is 2 litres per 100. So that's nearly 4 times 2 litres, 7.6. Now, everybody knows if you don't plug them in, they just become regular hybrids. But unfortunately, this is a common occurrence that a lot of people they can't be bothered plugging them in. I see it as incredibly easy, but it's common that people don't do this. Europe, apparently from what I'm reading on forums, has a tendency towards company cars, particularly in Germany and in the Netherlands, where quite a lot of plug-in hybrids are sold. And that's where you're seeing these terrible figures. The ICCT's figures reflect that, but they are quite different from here in Australia, where we don't have as many company cars. As other people have said, plug-in hybrids were an excellent solution in the 2010s, and they can be useful for people who live in cities but drive to remote places regularly. But Europe should be concentrating its efforts on fully zero-emission electric vehicles in this decade. And if you want to have a car with any kind of resale value within the next 5 years, I suggest you do the same. Now, one commenter online has claimed that the European plug-in hybrid test is fundamentally flawed, and they claim that this was deliberate. This was made so that European manufacturers could make their non-hybrid petrol and diesel vehicles appear efficient. The proper way to test plug-in hybrids is to rate them in hybrid and petrol mode, and then separately in EV mode. as the EP does in the United States, but this isn't done in Europe. It's likely that many European plug-in hybrids have hybrid performance the same or worse than pure petrol equivalent models. Of course, they're dragging around two different battery, two different drive systems. Regulators apparently in Europe are complicit in this decision to support local manufacturers whilst appearing to be making progress on emissions. So it's all about appearances. They had the same approach for diesel regulations. Regulations which appear strict, but which have loopholes for the manufacturers to actually increase emissions rather than reduce them. I think it's awesome to see the EU working to close this loophole. That's the fantastic news with this story. The sooner that all new vehicles are emissions free, the sooner that automakers will lose the incentive to game the emissions testing system. Here is some more great news. I hope you've enjoyed this video because I really enjoyed bringing this to you. This to me is just the kind of news that I wake up in the morning, I read a story like this and I go, yeah, it's another beautiful day on planet Earth. And you know what? There are things that happen that are bad. There are conspiracies. There are things like this where, companies, organizations just try to make things kind of look as though they're doing the right thing and then they do the opposite. And that's a little bit what's happened here. Ultimately, though, Europe will ban diesel and petrol vehicle sales, period, by 2035. Doesn't matter what any of these auto companies do or say. That's going to happen no matter what. And you know what? If this happens in 2025, as Reuters is claiming it will, and these other sources are claiming it will, even better. The electric revolution is coming, and there's nothing they can do to stop it.